Philadelphia, February the 3rd, 1937.
37.
Yeah, day after Groundhog's Day.
Okay, alors, how did you grew up and why did you choose a drums like instrument?
Well, when I grew up, everybody in the area, in our neighborhood, they all did something, you know, because most of the people of color, black people, whatever color, we always had some kind of musical talent. Somebody sang or somebody danced or whatnot. My father was a professional tap dancer, hoofer as they call it in America, and my mother could dance, jitterbug, you know. And my mother was a fairly good singer. She wasn't professional. My father was professional. And I came up and I was singing and dancing. And I think I started messing around at 2. And then when I was about 4 or 5, my uncle and cousins used to take me to the parties, and I used to dance, and they used to throw money on the floor. And I guess I got about 8 or 9. I started really being serious about dancing. So my mother used to show me some routine. I used to dance with my mother, like in the clubs and whatnot.
Yeah.
She would take me to the club or to the bar. They play the music, and I would dance in jitterbug. My mother taught me how to strand, ballroom, do the bop and stuff like that. And a lot of times people used to laugh because I'd be way down there by my mother's knees. And I'd spin her around and everything. And I grew up like that, just actually dancing. But I always dancing and tap dancing anyway. And drumming is about the same. It's the same.
Okay.
Except it's the feet, it's in the hands. And so I used to always beat on my chairs. I didn't have any drums.
Okay.
So I beat on the chairs, on the tables and stuff like that. And
I know.
And then I'm like a self-taught musician. Later on, I joined the band, you know, when I got a little older in school and played, you know. And I wasn't even reading, you know. And then basically, they had music and, you know, I had some little coaching. And my mother, I remember, bought me a book when I was about 12. And it had L and R, which left for the left hand and R for the right hand. And she said, the man said, don't use the sticks, just use your fingers. And that's how I kind of started teaching myself. And my friends, I had friends who was trumpet players. And some was a couple older than me, a couple of years. And they used to show me the syncopations and stuff, the rhythm. So I used to read out a trumpet book. You know? And then I joined the drum and bugle corps when I was 12. My mother put me in the Elks. And then later on, you know, came to the American Legion, which I told them I was 18, I was 16, like when I joined the union. And didn't have, we had the black unions then, because they didn't want us in the white union. It was hard to get into the white union, and Caucasians, whatever you want to say. And and then after that I joined the American Legion on 20th and 19th and Federal, which is across the street from where the Heath brothers is born. In fact, they used to have jam sessions at Jimmy Heath, Percy and Tootie's house, little rehearsals, and I used to go over across the street, you know. And it's funny because all those years, they never knew that I played drums, but I was playing in the marching bands and everything, and drum and bugle corps. But I came up like that, you know. And when I was 12, in fact, I looked at some of your listings, and you see, you had Billy Paul, who's also from Philadelphia, and a very good friend of mine, and we're the same age too. And so is Bill Cosby. We're all from we're all the same age. I think I might be a little older than him because I was born in February. But he was famous at 12 at the Kitty Hour. We had we used to call it Walker Drugstore, and Parisian Taylor had in the theater called the Royal Theater, 16th and 15th South. They had a show for kids, you know. We called it Kitty Hour. And I was tap dancing on the show and singing. And Billy Paul was singing, but I was tap dancing. And that's how far back we go. That's when I really got to know him, when I was 12. But later on, you know, I joined other little bands. My cousin, Jimmy Allen, who used to be a fighter, was a manager, road manager. And he took me on the road when I was about 16. And I used to play around the neighborhood, 15, playing. We had a band, and the leaders was named Troubles. He was the older man, I was the kid. And he played the tub with the string in it, with the rope in it. And we had another guy who played the washboard with the thimbles. And we had a guitar player named Ernie who sang and looked like Nat King Cole. And they had a trombone player who was a lady from Daddy Grace's band. That's one of the Prophets. And she used to come and play. And we had a lot of little in the neighborhood, you know. And sometimes we used to go to City Hall downtown to get papers, documents, so that they can close the streets, so that we can have, you know, have parties and stuff like that, you know. So it was like that, and for me, it was a pleasure. I just wanted to play. I liked the music. I never thought about being professional, but I wanted to be able to play with some of the guys and stuff like that. So it wasn't about money. You know, a lot of the kids say go to school, they learn to play. They want to learn to play to play the music, but they want to make money. You know, that was never my thing. You know, and when I first got $3, which is back in the '50s, that was a lot of money. I wanted to know what it was for, and they said we're playing in the bar in the corner. And I said, "What, they paying us to play?" He said, "Yeah." Yeah, but it was in the '60s. You know, $3 you could feed 6, 7 people back at that time. Because sodas was pop was 5 cents. And cigarettes was 12 cents.
Yeah.
You know, so
White club main ou the bar?
Neighborhood bar.
Neighborhood bar.
The white guy owned it. I think it's a Jewish guy. And everything was cheap then, you know, and everybody looked out for each other. I mean, I lived in a mixed neighborhood. I'm a Yankee. I'm from the North. And so I could never get used to being down south. You know, every time I went there from a kid coming up, they would send me home the next day. You know, because I couldn't take that. You know, I get in fights and all kind of stuff. But in fact, even when I was 15, went down. I couldn't handle that. I threw a brick through the store when they ran. By the time I got to my great-grandfather's property, they knew. The people knew without a telephone.
Yeah.
You know, you go there, they say, pack your stuff. You're going back to Philadelphia. Yeah, I'm not used to going around the back of the place to get something to eat, or going up in the balcony and you can't go through here, you can't drink out the white fountain and all that kind of stuff, you know, because I came up in the North. And we always together. Different nationalities, we lived next door to each other. So it was great, you know. It wasn't like being in Boston. Different type of prejudice thing, you know. But New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and all that. People, we were together. We helped each other and everything. So that's how my music thing kind of started. And my first band was a Jewish band, the guy next door.
Justement, first band.
And I used to play in the synagogues, you know. I know the da 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 da, hi, you know. So it was great, you know. And I went from one band to another. But when I was about 8, maybe 9, I say 8, they had a guy named Captain Mack who was in the service for like 9 or 10 years. And he retired. So he had a little drum and bugle corps. Actually, it wasn't a drum and bugle corps, it's a neighborhood thing. He had about 4 bugles, G bugles, and 2 snare drums. And the people, and they had a couple of girls like the majorettes. They didn't have no batons, they had sticks, regular sticks. And, you know, hey, we're poor. So he would march through South Street and all that, but he'd come through my street. And I lived on a little street named Kenilworth Street, between 13th and Broad, and Clarence, I put it that way. And he came through one day, and I was sitting there, and I had a slop bucket. Now, I explained to you what a slop bucket is. A slop bucket is an old bucket. A slop bucket is like when you have an outside toilet, like down south. You don't have the toilet inside. The bathroom is outside. And so some people had bathrooms inside, but most of us, even Italians, our toilets are in the yard, in the back. So I had an old thing my mother had thrown away. That's where you go to the toilet in the bucket. So I had cleaned it all out. Everything was real old, it was rusty and everything. And I put 2 holes in it and put a rope through it over my shoulder, and that was my drum. And I had the sticks from the chairs.
Yeah.
You know, that was my drumsticks. I had about 8 of them tied up with a rope, and they were because I didn't have no drumsticks. And I remember Mr. Captain Mack came through, and he was marching all the time. And I knew all his beats, you know. And he came through about 3 or 4 times, 3 or 4 days. They finally said, "Company, halt." Everybody stopped in front of my house. He said, "Boy, what's your name?" And I stood up at attention. I said, "Bobby, Mr. Mack." So he said, "You want to join my band?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Where's your drums?" I said, "This is it." He said, "It's a bucket." I said, "I know. That's all I got." He said, "I noticed, you know, all my beats, they fall in." That was one of the happiest days of my life, you know. And later on, a guy who was a neighbor saw me outside fighting. So he would tell my parents. So he put me on punishment to clean his yard. And he had a little cone-shaped cougar drum. It went a little short one, you know, small. And every day, every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was cleaning his yard for 2 weeks. So his wife came in one day and said, "You still here cleaning the yard?" So I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Why you still here?" I said, "He told me I got to clean every week." She said, "No, you have to clean every week. You're supposed to clean Friday and Saturday." I said, "But I've been there 3 weeks." So she said, she called into the house. She said, "Come here. You got this boy cleaning everything?" So he said, "Yeah." She said, "Give it." She grabbed his drum in the corner. They said, "Don't take my drum." She said, "So you can't play it anyway." So Bobby can play. And that was my first real drum with my hand.
Oh.
You know? And it's funny because many years it went by, and I was in a bar. Well, I passed all of that. But I hadn't seen this guy for like 30 years. I had been into the Marine Corps and everything. And I was in this bar in West Philly, another neighborhood from where I lived in South Philly. And the guy says, the guy here said that he gave you your first drum. You know, I said, "My first drum?" I started thinking, I said, "Yeah, man, that's kind of impossible. My first drum?" He said, "Yeah." He said, I said, "Where the guy at?" He said, "He said right next to you." And the guy turned around, and I looked at it, and it was the guy who gave me the first cougar drum. I said, "Jesus Christ, I thought you was dead." He said, "No." He said, "Then he wasn't lying." I said, "Yeah," because at the time I would play with Oscar Peterson, everybody, you know. And he was still, he said, "I gave you your first drum." And I told him, I said, the guy said, "Is he lying?" I said, "No, he's right. He gave me a code, said his wife gave it to me."
I remember the history in the beginning of Paco Seri, the drummer Paco. In the beginning in Africa.
Yeah.
It's a little, no drums.
No.
They are the
anything. Anything. But later on, after being on the road, well, 15, I went out with the circus. And that's funny, I called my mother. I was just turning 16. And my mother said, "Where you are?" I said, "I'm with my cousin Kike." She said, "What you doing?" I said, "We're looking for the man with the money." The man left with the money was working the carnival. And we were playing jazz. You know, I was 16, yeah. So, because I was 15 playing in the neighborhood. And then finally she said, "Well, where's Kike? Are you looking for the man?" I said, "Mom, I want to come home. I ain't got no money or nothing." She said, "But what you were doing?" I said, "I was playing." "Playing what?" I said, "Playing the drums." She said, "You playing the drums? You want to be a musician?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She hung the phone up and said, "Play your way back." And man, we went from a little town. I was tap dancing. He gave me a wax mustache and all that stuff. And the guy said, I went to the bar and said, "I want a beer." The guy said, "You don't want nothing in here." So he said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm his manager." And I tap danced from one place to another, a little town, until we got to Washington. And the lady there gave us bus fare so I could go home. You know? But when I turned 17, I was not doing too much, just practicing with some of my friends. And my cousin came through with the Orioles, the famous Orioles, Sonny Till and the Orioles.
Okay.
And he said, Sonny Till had just left, and he got another singer from Philadelphia that sounds just like Sonny Till. The rest of the group was there, and they needed a drummer. They had to leave the next day, and my cousin took me. And that was my first experience playing. Well, I had played with a guy named Prince Abdullah around town, you know, but that was my first experience going on the road playing with a real band, name band. I was 16 years old.
16.
And I went out with the Orioles.
Yeah.
And I was out for like about 2 months. And one day, my cousin said, "Look out the window." And I looked out the window because I had skipped school. And I went out before on the road and missed my classes. So I was left down in class.
Yeah.
And now I'm left down a whole year because I haven't been in, you know, for my grades. So I looked out the window, and across the street was a sign that says, "Nat Leroy on taps and MC." But Nat Leroy was my father's professional name. I had been to school. So